we're going to be taking a look at Fist of the North Star, or also known as Hokuto no Ken. But you can call it whatever you want because it really doesn't make a difference. Now before I talk about the anime series, I just want to talk a little bit about my introduction to this series, and that it started with the movie. And no, I'm not talking about the live action one, I'm talking about the one that was released in 1986. I remember I first watched that one in the year 2009, I think it was. And then in 2011, I first played the PS3 game Ken's Rage. And then shortly after that, I did watch a bit of this show, in fact the one I'm actually talking about here, but I didn't actually watch the entire thing, mostly because I probably got sidetracked off something. That's usually the reason why I never finish an anime. But now that I actually got through it now, let's talk about it. So it begins in the year 1990X. And that's usually a common thing if they can't narrow it down properly, but whatever. So the world has been put into ruin by nuclear warfare, and only 30% of mankind survives it. And the world is not run by government anymore, instead, it's ruled out by the strongest and who can survive. And trading out food and water is really the only currency that's going on. So in this case, no, do not save up your bottle caps. So it starts with the main character Kenshiro, who is a martial artist who just mastered the art of Hokuto Shinken. So this is a fighting style that is very hard to master, mostly because it is just so very deadly, and it mostly consists of blowing up from the inside. So after waking up feeling like shit, he's just been searching for some water, but he ends up getting thrown in jail for it. Same thing with a young thief named Bat. So there's a little girl named Rin who happens to get them some water. But she was not able to talk at all because she has been traumatized from something that happened to her like many years ago. And that horrible thing happened to be seeing her parents get killed. So what Ken ends up doing is that he ends up healing her somehow. So now she's able to talk for a little bit, but of course she's just getting used to it. So after that, a biker gang ends up attacking the village where they are at, and the leader of it named Zed ends up using Rin as a hostage. So Ken gets really pissed off, so he ends up breaking out of the cell with his bare hands. And then I'm pretty sure we can all take a guess what happens here. He sends a bunch of guys after him, but he ends up just killing them all. And then he ends up killing Zed very easily, while keeping Rin unharmed. So everyone is very thankful for the fact that Ken just defended the entire village from these biker gangs. But Ken ends up wanting to leave because he has an important mission to do, and that happens to be getting revenge on someone named Shin. Now Shin is a character that Ken was training with, but of course he was training for a different entire thing, and it was called Nanto Saiken. So the reason why Ken wants to get revenge on Shin is because he took his girlfriend away from him because he's a giant douchebag, and he happened to give 7 scars on his chest. And one of Ken's nicknames just happened to be the man with the 7 scars. So that's the reason why Ken wants to get revenge on Shin, is because not only did he take his girlfriend by force, but he also just, fucked his day up in pieces. So Bat ends up wanting to travel with Ken just so he knows he's safe. And eventually Rin does travel with them, but not until much later. So the basic of what this show is all about is Ken, who is pretty much a mix between Bruce Lee and Jesus set in the world of Mad Max, traveling around trying to defend the people of the weak that he has to go through on the way. And Shin is trying to get his officers to try and hunt down Kenshiro. And they also do many other bad things such as starting up chaos. Now Shin is not necessarily the main antagonist, but he's just one of the main bad guys at the first bit. But there is a lot of other characters within this show. But 3 of the bigger bad guys would have to be Jaggy, Salazar, and Rao. My personal favorite bad guy in this show would have to be Jaggy, because not only does his character design look cool, but he's also just a crazy son of a bitch. I guess you could say he's pretty much like the Joker of this show. Now, I do find that kind of funny because one of Shin's right-hand man happened to be named Joker, and he happens to wear purple and green hair, but he doesn't really act all crazy that much. But either way, I just really like Jaggy's character a lot for what he is. And Ro is just a fucking badass all around. Now, I can talk about the show all damn day, because let me tell you, I really enjoyed this one. And as much as I would love to talk about everything else that happens in this show, I gotta end it somewhere, but you pretty much get the whole basic of the idea. So like I said, it's pretty much like if Bruce Lee fused with Jesus if he was inside the world of Mad Max, and well, that sounds pretty awesome, at least to me it does. So with that being said, let's take a look at other things like the animation. And I think it's really good. Although I wouldn't say this is as good as something like Macross, but it still looks really nice. And of course it kinda suits the feel of this show where, everything is all like dark and gritty. The only thing in this show that is really bright and colorful would have to be the clothing that the enemies wear. But it still looks really nice. Also the character designs for the most part are also really cool. And the action scenes look really good. And of course, as you would suspect, they're very gruesome. Now, I have a feeling there's going to be some people that have complained about the blood being black, but honestly, that doesn't bother me too much. I mean, you're still seeing plenty of death and a lot of blood everywhere. In fact, there is still red blood in the show, it just doesn't spray out as red. It's mostly whenever someone gets like a scratch mark somewhere, it usually shows up as red. But really, whatever, I don't really care. The action scenes are still really cool. But really though, I really don't have much to complain about when it comes to animation, so really, it's pretty good if I say so myself. Now, as for the show's music, I have to say I really like the background music, I find it to be very fitting. Now, as for the opening, if you're watching this in Japanese, the opening is fucking awesome. Unfortunately, I can't remember how to actually pronounce the name of the song, but I'm pretty sure you know which one I'm talking about. And I'm not even gonna try and butcher it, mainly because I know someone will complain at me and tell me to rewatch it or some shit. So that opening is really good, but if you're watching it in English, the opening is kinda lame. So that's kind of unfortunate, but I kind of expected as much. And speaking of which, let's talk about the voice acting, and let me tell you, if you're watching this in English, man, are they bad. Now, to be fair, it's not all bad, but it mostly is bad. Now, if you just looked at the cast list, you'd probably be thinking, well, how the hell is this bad? I mean, there's a lot of voice actors here that are actually not that bad. But there's a few reasons for that, and one of them is that a lot of the voice actors here, they were actually brand new ones at the time, so meaning that they didn't really have a lot of experience yet. Where nowadays we all go like, okay, yeah, they're actually pretty cool. And the other reason is that it's most likely has to do with the voice director. And sometimes that is the case of why some of the English dubs in some animes can be pretty bad. But like I said, not all of it is just complete travesty. Just for some examples, like Mad Sarge being played by Jameson Pierce was actually pretty good. And I also found that General Barcom, who was being played by Bew Billingsley, I think it's how you say it, well, I found his voice was actually pretty good for what it was. And I also found that Jaggy's voice, who was being played by Peter Lorre, I also found that to be pretty good as well. And I also must admit that the voice actor for Bat, who is Gary Dubin, is actually quite tolerable. But everyone else is just, oh man, like a lot of it is just not that good at all. So you have Lex Lang playing Kenshiro, and well, I really do like Lex Lang, but he doesn't really do a good job as Kenshiro, or at least, I don't know, maybe it could be the voice director's fault. And Steve Blum plays Shin, and well, I also like Steve Blum, but here, he just feels really off. And then the character Ray is being played by Darren Norris, and well, let me tell you, that's probably one of the worst voices in the show. And then Rin is being played by Sandy Fox, who is pretty annoying, but then again, I kind of expected that as much. And lastly, I'll mention is that Kirk Thornton and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn are also some voice actors I really do like a lot, but here they're just not that great. Now, in case you're wondering what kind of bad that I'm talking about, like is it at least like so bad it's funny sort of thing? Well, it's like kind of funny at times, but other times it just feels really off and just nothing all that special, which is a shame, really. And personally, I would just stick with the Japanese one. Even though I can't tell the quality of it, it's at least tolerable, and also it does kind of suit this setting. I mean, it is a martial arts anime after all. So if you're watching the English one, it's pretty rough. But if you're watching this in Japanese, then you really can't go wrong with it that much, and besides the English one, they never even finished it. They only went up to like episode 36 or something. So that's all I have to say about that. Now, as for the score, I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this one, mostly because I just found it to be highly entertaining. And I really like the characters and how they had to survive through all the shit that they go through. And as usual, whenever Ken beats someone, it's always amusing. Most likely one of the most funniest deaths within the show is that some random guy tried to use one of the moves that he does on people, but he tries using it on Ken, but what ends up happening is that after he counts down to 5, he ends up blowing himself up. It's fucking hilarious. Now, I know a lot of people would say that this show is, like, you know, very repetitive and how you know, like, how what's gonna happen, but then again, what martial arts thing isn't? And I find that the reason why you watch this show is not what happens, but it's just how you tell it. And I found the way they told the story in the show was in a really good way. Now, as much as I did enjoy the show, I actually still prefer the movie over the show. But that's just my opinion on that. Of course, I can see why people would like the show more than the movie, but of course, it's just personal preference. But leaving all comparing aside, I found it to be a really entertaining show. And yes, it is one of my favorites, but I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10, mostly because I find the show could have been a little bit better than what they came out with. But the flaws that are in this show are nothing that I would really make a big stink about it, but I'm just saying that a 9 out of 10 is a very fair score for this anime. Also, one last thing I'll mention before I end it is that the manga for this show, at least from what I've read of it, is actually fucking fantastic. So if you're watching this original anime series, or if you're watching the movie or reading the books, personally, I think they're all great. So if you like Bruce Lee, or if you like Mad Max, or if you just like tons of blood, then you'll definitely like this one.